Hi everybody, Scott Kissel on our pastoral team at Timberline Church, and I'm out here in the great outdoors of Colorado because that's where I love to go when I'm not working at Timberline. It is so fun to be able to get outside. We got so many great areas. You put me outside with water, trees, nobody around me, I'm good, I'm golden. So I love doing that when I'm not at work at Timberline. My favorite Bible story is from John 6, where Jesus feeds the 5,000. Why is that my favorite Bible story? It's because he is with the disciples. They're exhausted after a long day, and all of a sudden, all of these people are following them. And Jesus says, have them all sit down. And then he looks at his disciples and says, let's give them something to eat. And the disciples look at him cross-eyed probably and go, what are you talking about? We don't have enough to feed 5,000 people. And I love the part in John 6 where it says Jesus already knew what he was going to do, but he wanted to test the disciples' faith. And then all of a sudden, a disciple comes forward and says, we found a young boy who has a lunch, and he's got 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. And Jesus looks at them and says, let's give thanks for it, and then I want you to go hand it out. And then what happens? If you're familiar with the story, this is what happens. They feed everybody. Everybody has enough to eat. The disciples go and gather up the leftover food, and there's 12 basketfuls left. And the end of that John chapter 6 passage says there was 1 basket for every single disciple. So I don't know about you, but if I was a disciple and I had a basket of food left over for me when I doubted we could even feed the people, I think that would be a significant milestone in my faith journey. So that's my favorite Bible story. And for you out there, all we need to do is bring a little to the Lord, and he can do a lot. So don't ever forget that. God can do so much. So bring what you have, lay it in his hands, and then see what he can do. John 6, absolutely favorite Bible story. My pastor, obviously, at our church is Derry Northrup. He's been my pastor and my supervisor for a lot of years, but I had to think beyond that because of a pastor in Washington, D.C. named Pastor Mark Batterson. New York Times bestselling author and a pastor that I met out of a connection with Pastor Dick Foth, who's on our teaching team. And when I met Pastor Mark Batterson, I immediately just fell in love with his passion, his zeal for his congregation, his passion for writing. And then ever since then, I've snatched up every single book that he's written. I watch as much stuff as I possibly can of his. And he literally pastors me on every single page of his books. I've got 3x5 cards with quotes written on them. I've got scripture verses that he's mentioned to us. I've got all those things that have really influenced my life. And so he's been a pastor influencer in my life for quite a while now.